Afghanistan is undergoing a very critical phase, a transformation which might impact the geopolitical security of the world. On this issue and many more, I'm joined by His Excellency, Afghanistan's Ambassador to India, Mr. Farid Mamundzay. So thank you for making time for TV9 Digital. And my first question to you is, sir, you have been appointed to India at a very critical time. What are your expectations from the country?
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be on your channel. Yes, the time is very dire and we are faced with many challenges. Security has been a very key concern to us recently. I come to India with some expectations, and those expectations are to continue with the current strong partnership that our two nations have. We would be seeking India's assistance in two areas. One is to help us with diplomatic and political efforts to bring Taliban to the negotiating table. India is a very important player of the international community and has a lot of convening power. Utilizing its convening power, we seek India's support to convince Taliban to let go of violence, cut ties with international terrorist groups, and come to the negotiating table. Two, we seek India's help to continue assisting Afghanistan with development and economic assistance. The support has been generous over the past 20 years, and we are still at a stage where support would be required for a number of years.
So aren't you concerned that there have been, though India does not, has given boots on the ground, but the sort of work it has done in context of Salma Dam, or the sort of work which has been going around the Shahtoot Dam area, and the Taliban attacking those infrastructure which benefits a common Afghan, does it worry you?
Certainly, yes, it's something of great concern. India has invested heavily for us, and the investment was not only for the government of Afghanistan, but the investment was done for the people of Afghanistan. And the people in far located region of our country vowed that they would provide necessary security to all those infrastructure projects. It is their projects, it benefits those local communities the most. And we are very pleased that none of the projects India has executed over the years have been damaged in the recent months of violent operations by the Taliban.
Sir, do you expect the US to prepone the date of withdrawal? Does it concern you, sir?
The withdrawal comes in a very unorganized fashion. We didn't want the withdrawal to happen in such a hasty manner. It could have been done in a more organized manner. Now, since the date has been confirmed, 90% of the troops have left our country. The remaining 10% would be leaving in the next month, by the end of the next month. So, any further delay seemed to be impossible at this stage. Most of their logistic infrastructure have left the country. They have been now relocated either to their bases in the Gulf or the United States. So I think it would be quite late to expect any further presence of NATO forces in Afghanistan.
So wasn't the Afghan government surprised because the lack of courtesy without informing the local authorities? The whole Bagram base, went empty during midnight.
Yes, like I said, the withdrawal comes in a very disorganized manner. That's what exactly I meant, that the lack of coordination caused a very chaotic environment, a very chaotic mood among the local population. And this also had a negative impact on the morale of our security forces, that NATO forces who were providing us with logistics in air support were leaving in a such abrupt manner. So those were, the withdrawal comes in a very unorthodox manner and had caused a lot of concerns and problems for us.
But sir, aren't you concerned that Taliban have captured a lot of districts and a lot of districts are falling where the Afghan forces have not been able to evict them? Doesn't it worry you?
It's the developments are certainly worrying, but one would have to look at how big Afghanistan is and would have to understand the geographic landmass of the country. None of the 34 major cities have fallen to the Taliban. We have active fight ongoing in 1/3 of the country in about 150 districts out of almost 400 districts. The situation is dire. We are going through a very difficult time in our recent history. Almost 4,000 people have been killed. 300,000 people have been internally displaced. They have been made homeless by the ongoing violence. So we are concerned. Taliban have made gains in terms of gaining more territory. But a fact to be remembered that Taliban were there even when there were 150,000 US and NATO forces. They had the most advanced technology any army has in the world. With that technology and that magnitude of forces presence, Taliban managed to maintain several districts. So it should not be a surprise given a very complex terrain and geography that we have. It's a mountainous country with a lot of forests, deserts, and it's difficult to guard the entire country with the forces that we have.
Pakistan says that it has got best interest of Afghanistan. Is that statement believable, sir?
We hope so. Any country after Afghanistan that would benefit the most from a peaceful settlement would be Pakistan. Pakistan is currently going through major economic crisis, and we offer them an economic lifeline, not only in Afghanistan but to Central Asia as well. So peace, in the peace process, Pakistan has a lot of stakes. They can benefit from it, and we would want sincere efforts on part of Pakistan to help us.
But there's another paradox, sir. Taliban has violated every aspect of the Doha Agreement in terms of violence, in terms of human rights, which your government had been talking about. How do you believe Taliban when they haven't kept a single word they said in Doha?
There is something of great concern to us. We have the same concern that Taliban have not honored any of the commitments made in Doha. They had not cut ties with international terrorist organizations. They have increased violence, and they have inflicted heavy losses on the property and lives of the Afghan people. So finally, they have not entered the peace process with good faith. On their part, what we saw was a delaying tactic to buy themselves more time and give that time to fight. So what we expect from Pakistan is to put some pressure on Taliban. Pakistan has a lot of influence over Taliban. They can use that leverage to bring Taliban to the negotiating table and put an end to the violence.
Mr. Farid, your government is not only about a party which has won elections and come to power. It's about women's rights, it's about industry, it's about trade, it's about peaceful transition of power. Your government is about modern rights, schools, education for girl children. What will happen if Taliban becomes part of the government? Because your worldview of your government and your excellency is far more progressive than what Taliban brings on table.
The past 20 years, we have been able to stabilize and democratize Afghanistan. We have had many success stories, from initiating democratic processes to women's rights, human rights, minorities' rights, and so on. 1/4 of our parliament is made of women. We have female cabinet ministers. Our current ambassador to Washington and New York are female. So we have a lot of female senior figures in the government, politicians, MPs. We have representation from all ethnic minorities. A lot of those gains would be lost. The gains of the past 20 years will be compromised on.
So my second last question to you is that the American intelligence estimate says your government will fall in 4 to 5 months. Do you agree?
No, that's not a realistic assessment. We disagree with that. You may have heard of President Joe Biden's comments last week that there hasn't been any such assessments, and we disagree with the assessment done by anyone that Kabul would fall in 6 or 12 months.
My last question to you, sir. You know, Afghanistan in popular fables is supposed to be the graveyard of empires. No one has the capacity, how powerful or mighty they have been, to control or to take over Afghanistan. Now, China wants to play a role. It wants to have a say. It has its Belt and Road project. How do you see that development? Do you feel that China can play a positive role, or do you think that, you know, it will usher in a different imperial order?
We want a constructive role of Beijing in Afghanistan. China has security concerns in Afghanistan, and we understand and appreciate that. If the region is stable, there would be joint regional development initiatives. It also plays in China's favor. We want China to play a very responsible role in Afghanistan as a major regional power.
Like Turkey?
Turkey has been a very constructive partner. They've been part of the NATO forces, and they helped us with a lot of redevelopment and rehabilitation projects in the province of Maidan Wardak, in the central region, and various other parts of the country. Turkey contributes to our education initiatives. They run education schools for us. If China can play a similar role, I think we would welcome that.
And would you like to conclude this interview by telling our viewers how has been your talks with Taliban, your government's talk with Taliban in Tehran? Have they been fruitful?
It was the right step towards the lasting peace process. A small step, but in the right direction. And we hope that the talks that we have planned next week with Taliban would go with some results. We would be able to yield some positive results from those talks.
So thank you for making time for TV9 Digital. Thank you so much.